Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the General Insurance Corporation of India Q3 FY21 earnings conference call. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Binay Sarda from Christensen IR. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thanks, Raymond. Good evening to all the participants on the call, and thanks for joining this Q3 FY21 earnings call for General Insurance Corporation of India. Please note that we have mailed out the press release to everyone, and you can also see the results on our website as well as it has been uploaded on the stock exchange. In case if you have not received the same, you can write to us and we will be happy to send it over to you. Before we proceed with the call, let me remind you that the discussion may contain forward-looking statements that may involve known or unknown risks, uncertainties, and other factors. It must be viewed in conjunction with our businesses that could cause future result, performance, or achievement to differ significantly from what is expressed or implied by such forward-looking statements. To take us through the results of this quarter and answer our questions, we have with us the management of GIC, represented by Mr. Devesh Srivastava, Chairman and Managing Director, and other top members of the management. We'll be starting the call with a brief overview of the quarter gone past, which will then be followed by Q&A session. With that said, I'll now hand over the call to Mr. Devesh Srivastava. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Binay. Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to announce the financial performance for the quarter ended 31st December 2020. It is heartening to note that the negative impact due to the pandemic is reducing gradually. We witnessed growth in business volume during the quarter compared to the preceding Q2 FY21. Our performance continued to get better, and we foresee significant improvement in terms of underwriting performance in the coming quarters. Let me now take you through some of the key highlights of the financial performance. The gross premium income of the company was rupees 11,668 crores for Q3 FY21 as compared to rupees 11,539 crores in Q3 FY20. The investment income increased significantly by 30% to rupees 2,624 crores in Q3 FY21 as compared to rupees 2,018 crores in the corresponding quarter of the previous year. Incurred claims ratio declined to 89% in Q3 FY21 as compared to 108% in Q3 FY20. Combined ratio in Q3 FY21 improved to 108% versus 130% for Q3 FY20. The adjusted combined ratio, by taking into consideration the policyholder's investment income, works out to 89% for Q3 FY21 as compared to 113% in Q3 FY20. The company recorded profit before tax of rupees 1,516 crores in Q3 FY21 as against of rupees 1,065 crores in Q3 FY20 and profit after tax of rupees 987 crores in Q3 FY21 as against net loss of rupees 1,069 crores in Q3 FY20 on account of better performance at the underwriting level and increase in investment income. Solvency stands at 1.53 as on 31st December 2020. Net worth of the company without fair value change account recorded as rupees 21,204 crores on 31/12/2020 as against 20,529 crores as on 31/3/2020. Net worth of the company, including fair value change account, increased to rupees 45,952 crores as on 31/12/2020 as compared to rupees 35,425 crores as on 31/3/2020. On the premium breakup, domestic premium for Q3 FY21 is rupees 7,428 crores and the international is rupees 4,240 crores. The percentage split is domestic 64% and international 36%. There is a degrowth in the domestic premium by around 3%, while the international book has grown by 9%. We are seeing signs of turnaround and expect to improve our overall performance in the coming quarters. We are confident that underwriting performance will improve going forward, and we are already seeing positive signs of a turnaround. Having given the highlights, now we will open the floor for questions from the interested parties. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. To ask a question, please press star and 1. The first question is from the line of Ajox Frederick from BNK Securities. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity, sir, and congrats on a good set of numbers. I have two questions. One on the health performance side. This time the underwriting was pretty much very strong, in fact, and I just sort of asking you the reason behind that. The second thing is you were indicating about positive signs of turnaround. If you can just elaborate on where you're really seeing those turnarounds happening, in what business lines. Those are my two questions. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. On the health side, obviously, there's no game saying the fact that the pandemic has been unprecedented with the world coming under a lockdown. So if you see how the domestic market has progressed quarter on quarter, and in health, in fact, a huge part of the entire portfolio of the GIC Health, almost 97% is domestic health. The progress has been that the first quarter, April to June, was very sluggish, obviously. Then as things picked up, so did the health portfolio. But the fear of pandemic made a lot of people buy health insurance. So there was a huge growth in the retail health sector of the domestic market, which to us is a very healthy sign that people are realizing the worth of insurance and getting into it. So that was a good sign. The another good point was that a lot of claims that would have normally happened did not take place, and planned operations were postponed because of pandemic. Obviously, nobody wanted to go to a hospital during those dreadful times. Things are easing out now, but we know that the claims that have been postponed are also going to be there. So we have reserved very prudently as well. And that is where our health health book stands. But health is something that we are looking forward to in a big way, especially with all the schemes coming in and India having a huge population and the government wanting to cover it all up. We are into the health sector, and we see that as one of our big ones in the near future. Now you talk about the turnaround that we spoke of in our brief statement.
If I may input a bit before we go to that question, just to follow up on the health fee. Sir, so the benefit came through because of lower claims and not because of higher prices. So is that how I should read that? On health?
No, not really. You see, there is, as we have always maintained, that there is a lag of a quarter or maybe 2 quarters between a direct insurance company and a reinsurance company. So currently, the claims have started coming in a lower number, because obviously the first quarter there were hardly any claims. Second quarter they grew gradually, and then when the health policy started being sold, there was a price increase also registered. And over and above the fact that many people were buying health insurance. In fact, Bombay emerged as the health capital of the country with the number of people buying retail health. So the increase in the premiums of health policies will be coming in the subsequent quarters also. There would be a trickle down in this one as well, but not very much as we could expect in the subsequent quarters.
Understood.
So if that is fine, then I'm talking about the turnaround. So
yeah,
as
sure.
we have always maintained that our entire emphasis was on getting onto a bottom line. Obviously, for the reasons best that is the most sustainable way of a company to make, that you start making profits in the area of our operations. So our entire focus of the management was towards having a better combined. And with that, we have been writing much more prudently. We have actually hived off our portfolio the ones that were not making sense, and taken a lot of internal measures as well, having stricter underwriting controls and sort, and every underwriter having been given the fact that he has to get to a much, much lower combined. So obviously in the reinsurance sector, nothing happens overnight. Things take a lot of time. Not a lot of time, well, they do take time. It is not an overnight thing that you have. So those things have started happening now, and we are seeing the green shoots. And that is why we are very hopeful that going forward we are on the right track and that we are doing what we had set out to do.
Got it, sir. That was very helpful, and all the best for the future.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to participants that you may press star and 1 to join the question queue. The next question is from the line of Madhukar Ladha from HDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Congratulations on a good set of numbers. And, I wanted to understand what's happening on the agri side. Even this quarter, I think we seem to have underwriting losses. And this is despite the price hikes that have been taken. So
first, thank you, Madhukar Saab. Much that I would like to speak about agri, but then we have the man of all seasons, Mr. Tripathi is there, who heads up the agri vertical. I'll request him to come in, please.
Sure, sir. Am I audible, Madhukar?
yes, sir.
Okay. Regarding agri, I have to say that if you see the 31st December 2019 gross premium for agri, we were having something like close to 14,830 crores of premium, against which this year on December 2020 we had a premium of around 8,860 crores. But the incurred claims of the earlier year are also standing in the books. Okay, majority of them have been settled, and still there are claims for the year 18-19 that has developed a little bit, deteriorated a little bit, which we are holding at around 99%, has gone up to around 104%, for which we have provided. And despite the Kharif season of this year, 2020 being one of the best years, we continue to remain very conservative on that. While I would speculate to say that the overall Kharif claims will be something at around 75% or less going ahead, we still maintain a gross loss provisioning of around 83% in our books. Plus the Rabi season, which is going quite well at this point of time without reporting any kind of claims or adverse season, we continue to have the same kind of provisions that we have provided for Kharif. So when we come to March and we take a final call as to how the Kharif and the Rabi crop cutting season will be over by that time, how the seasons have finally panned out, I am absolutely sure that the claims, the combined ratio for agri, which is hovering at around 104%, will be below 100%. We could have made it, little less provisions also, but Rabi sometimes brings some surprises. That is why we have continued to maintain it at the same level as Kharif and have gone ahead with the provision. I am absolutely sure that when we come to March, our book will be absolutely below 100 as far as the agri combined ratio is concerned.
This is very helpful, sir. Just a follow-up on this. So Kharif crop cutting season is out of the way. It's completed right now.
Yes.
And there, now we know that the actual loss ratios are only about 75%.
Yes.
And still we are maintaining that additional 8% sort of.
Around 8% we are maintaining, because
and
some of the states also have a little bit of late reporting on figures and everything. So we maintain it around 6-7% higher, which I am absolutely sure will come below 80%, close to 75% when we come to March.
Right. And what would be the Kharif season premium collection?
Our understanding is that we are probably at around 7,800 crores of total business that we think for the whole year. Kharif will be, for us, will be something like 6,200 to 6,300 crores.
Okay. Got it. This is very helpful. So also, if I may ask a follow-up, the underwriting losses are also high on fire and motor. Any comments of there would be helpful.
I can comment on motor. Motor, if you see, our combined ratio for the international market has been quite healthy. And it is below 95%, it's close to 92. I'm not wrong, it will be something close to 92, 93%. And the domestic market, the lag effect, as we have been telling for so long, actually is taking it a little bit more. But I am again quite, I would say, optimistic that the combined ratio, which is coming totally at around 101, will be below 100 going ahead.
So why is there such a large lag effect? If you can explain that a little bit, that'll be helpful.
It is not, see, the lag effect, whatever was there in the September quarter, if you see, from September quarter, again, we have shown improvement in the December quarter. And even from the December quarter, when we go overall to March, we will see the effect of what was there in the general market books in around September will be there in our books in March. And this international renewals which we have done on 1st of January is not yet accounted in the books. Will throw a much more positive results when it is accounted for in the books by March.
So you mentioned that the motor loss ratios have improved in December, but actually, if my numbers suggest that from the September quarter to this quarter, September quarter we were at about 254 crores of positive underwriting profit. So and now we are at an underwriting loss of about 232 crores.
See, when I compared this, I compared with the 31/12/2019.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
31/12/2019 to this quarter.
Understood, sir. Okay, and comments on the fire segment? I think of there the international book seems to be leading.
Madhukar, I'll request Mr. Deepak Prasad, who is the Chief Underwriting Officer, and he heads up the vertical as well. Sir, if you can please come in.
Good afternoon, Madhukar. I think when you look at the fire portfolio, both domestic as well as foreign have improved over previous year. However, international, there are still some CAT events which have taken place for which we need to provide as IBNR. Though the intimations of claim has not been to that extent, but we have been conservative and kept this loss ratios there. It will slowly over as we go over to quarter by quarter. You'll see this coming down.
Okay. What CAT events are these? Where is this exposure?
One is in Japan, and there are around 2 or 3 hurricanes around US. So these two have really affected us. And of course, there is a pandemic. I think we have kept a provision of $32 million for the pandemic.
Okay. Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder once again to participants that you may star and 1 to join the question queue. Participants who wish to ask questions may press star and one. The next question is from the line of Sanket Godha from Spark Capital. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. I have few questions. First on the crop insurance. When we did Rabi in the quarter one, we saw a decline of almost 35%. But in crop, the decline seems to be little lower at around 8%. So just wanted to understand that we actually believe that Kharif is a better crop from loss ratio or volatility perspective compared to Rabi is a better crop compared to volatility or loss ratio perspective compared to Kharif, and so we will be more focused on Rabi incrementally going ahead.
No, it is not like that. See, what happens when you come to Rabi, the majority of premium actually comes from the Rabi paddy of Tamil Nadu. So if you have the major premium of the Tamil Nadu state is from Rabi paddy. It starts from the autumn season, and there are actually 5 different seasons for paddy during the Rabi itself. But we are not participating in Tamil Nadu state this year because of the arrangement they have, which is slightly different from the original PMFBY arrangement. And historically, Tamil Nadu has produced claims in excess of 100 continuously. So we have not participated in Tamil Nadu and Madhya Pradesh this year. Unfortunately, these two states will be reporting claims in excess of 150% this year, Kharif and Rabi combined. Rabi as such is a less volatile season, but it has the ability to show some kind of surprises because of hailstorms and unseasonal rain affecting wheat crop, which has not happened this year. So we are, even Maharashtra state, which has some volatility in Rabi, is not implementing the scheme in the Rabi season. So we are the states that are currently implementing Rabi season, the premium amount will be less, and there is no adverse report from anywhere in the country.
Okay, but sir, in Rabi of Tamil Nadu, if you have not done, which you have done in the last year, so the decline should have been more in Q3, the amount of business what we have done. But it seems to be lower decline versus what we have seen in Kharif. That's the reason I was asking that question, sir.
See, if you look into 31/12/2019 to 31/12/2020, the decrease in gross written premium for agri is 40%.
Right.
Okay. Last year, December, our premium was 14,835. There, the gross written premium is 8,860. So right. Overall, the reduction for GIC is into the tune of around 42 to 43% in agri on a pan-India basis, and we have reduced this size significantly.
Got it. Sir, last quarter we had some kind of a premium not coming in, and therefore reversing of that recognition to take to release the solvency. Just wanted to understand in agri crop premium how much is in the balance sheet as an outstanding premium receivable, and you are confident that the same kind of a phenomena what you saw in Q2 will not repeat going ahead?
See, the IRDA requirement regarding admissible assets for the agri premium is up to 360 days. Okay. Beyond that amount, whatever is there is not considered for admissible assets for calculation of solvency, but we keep it in our accounts, as we are sure that this amount, which is a subsidy amount of the previous year, will be received duly from the state government. So from accounting point of view, we continue to include it in our books, but don't take it for calculation of our solvency.
No, why I'm asking this question is, sir, that in Q2 we had a negative number in terms of crop insurance because we largely de-recognized kind of a revenue which we did not receive it, or we believe that it will not come in, or people went for under harvesting than what we initially anticipated it to be. So something of that kind phenomena, because still the premium recognition is based on expected basis. So just wanted to understand that how confident you are a similar thing will not play out going ahead.
No, the payout will definitely happen. See, when payout is already due from the state government, the central government money is already available in the escrow account. That the authorities keep on pursuing the state governments for release of their share, and though delayed, we are absolutely optimistic that this amount, whatever is standing in our books, it will be amount of around 1,600 crores will be received in due course.
Okay, sir. Thanks. And the other question is on health insurance segment for the quarter. It has almost declined by 29%. So just wanted to understand, because the growth was better in Q2, it substantially jumped, but in Q3 it declined again 30-odd%, almost 30-odd%. So just wanted to understand what led to this decline, whether it's domestic business, capital gearing treaty, or we slowed down substantially in overseas business, or it was upfront recognized in Q2 and therefore Q3 looks weak in that sense.
Saket, I'll just request Sujita ma'am, who heads up the health vertical, to come in here. She is the CFO as well.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. Good evening. The health, there is a slight increase compared to the last quarter, as you see in the gross premium. The only thing is overall there is a decrease because of the loss of this capital gearing, which was not renewed, and some of it which we lost around 900 crores was not, which was in capital gearing treaties, was not renewed as normal. So that was our loss in that. Plus we lost some of those which we had, this Ayushman Bharat, which has gone instead of the insurance way, they have gone the trust mode. This has only been our loss, not more than that. The rest we have
if I look at the disclosures which you have given in the press release, if I back calculate the quarterly figure of Q3 FY20, that number is 1480 crores in health insurance segment. And if I do the same back calculation for Q3 FY21, that number is 1056 crores. So it clearly indicates there is a decline of around 28-29% in 3Q. I'm not speaking it from 9 months perspective, ma'am. I'm speaking only from 3 months perspective. That there is a decline in third quarter assets from September to December. So just from October to December, I need to say. So just wanted to understand what led to it. It is explained largely by capital gearing treaties or something else.
That is what my figures are not showing a decrease. That's why I can't understand. See now.
Okay, sir. Maybe I'll come back offline on that particular question. Maybe.
Yeah, because it's showing an increase and it's not showing a decrease from last quarter, September 20. You're comparing September 20 to December 20, right?
No, okay. Maybe my math error. Maybe I will come back afterwards.
Yeah, sure.
And to answer, when you answered the previous question on health insurance, the underwriting, you ended up reporting underwriting profit in the current quarter. But when I look here combined ratio disclosures for domestic and overseas, then it seems that bulk of the benefit came from overseas segment rather than from the domestic segment, because health ratio for 9 months FY21 in health still remains at around 119% combined ratio, while overseas it sharply improved to 72. But given sir has said that maybe less than 5% is contributed by overseas health, so that underwriting profit improvement seems to be it doesn't explain the math probably.
So for me, a very small portion of it is from overseas business. Largely, it is all domestic only, and that also obligatory business for me.
Okay.
I think if you can come back to me on your numbers, separately, I'll be able to help you out on this.
Sure.
Somehow it's not matched.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. And finally, two more questions. Just wanted to understand your annual renewal trends in the overseas market, and also how are you seeing the April pricing to behave in domestic segment? That is one question. And second is basically on what loss can you anticipate from the glacier floods which happened in Uttarakhand, or something if you have exposure to Australia or New Zealand where tsunami or earthquake has hit them?
Saket, Again, I'll request Mr. Deepak Prasad, who is the Chief Underwriting Officer and who also handles the foreign inward portfolio, to comment, please.
Yes, Sachin, I think there are two questions that you have raised. One is about our January renewal, how it has gone for the foreign. And the second one is about this Uttarakhand loss.
Yeah. And third one is how you are seeing domestic pricing shaping up in the current year. I mean,
Okay.
you had the last 2 years continuous price hike in fire. So a similar kind of a trend is still visible, or how you are seeing that pricing to behave going ahead?
Okay. So I'll address all the three. The one is about our January renewal. As you know, we had this rating downgrade for the year.
Right.
So there has been some loss of business to the extent of around 18% of the foreign book. However, it's much better than what we expected, and the fact remains that it gave us an opportunity to churn around and see what was not desirable to get away from it. So we did get away from some business and we lost something. On a total, there is a decline of around 18% in the gross written premium. Coming to
pricing trend. This is loss in the business because of the rating downgrade. But have the rates hardened globally on for the January renewal? And if it is so,
it has hardened quite a bit, but not to the extent that we were looking at. I think there was a lot of talk about hardening of rates, but yes, there was around, I would say, anywhere between 8 to 15% of hardening that has taken place in the market, depending on the geographies and loss ratios of various companies. So there has been a hardening, but then yes, we have had a loss of renewals as well. Coming to...
Sorry, sir. Just to conclude this part, you are saying that we lost business 18% because of the rating downgrade, but to the extent of business you have retained, across the geographies you have seen, depending upon the geography, a rate hike of around 8 to 15%. That's the way, right, sir?
No, that is the rate increase in the market. However, taking into account the rate increase and what we lost, at the end of the day, we have lost around 18% of market that we were holding.
Okay, sir. Got it.
Okay. Now coming to the Uttarakhand loss, I think there would be very minimal impact to GIC coming specifically from treaties to some extent. Though we have checked up on all the major writings that we do not seem to have been impacted with this Uttarakhand loss.
So it will not trigger your retro, right, sir? 500 crores retro?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay. And if you can comment on domestic pricing also, it would be great, sir, given we had 2 rounds of rate hikes in FY19 and FY20. FY20 and FY21 almost. So similar commentary would be helpful.
Okay. I mean, in the first phase, I think there were 9 occupancies which were taken up where we said we will go burn cost decided by IIB, and we would not accept any business below that. In the second year, we took all the 250 or so occupancies and said here also we will not accept anything below the burn cost.
Right.
So that has stood the test of time till now. Most of the companies have followed in, and we see an increase in fire portfolio by nearly 34%, which is driven by basically price increase. because as you know, during the pandemic, most of the work had come to a standstill. So we should have seen a decline, but in spite of the pandemic, we have seen a growth of around 33-34%. So I guess the price rise that happened had stood the test of time. We are getting into the fresh renewals in April for the domestic market. We are trying to make sure that there is no decline in the pricing.
Any expected price hike, sir, there?
No, now this year likely not. What had happened last year, that will continue to flow in. Now whatever hike takes place would come from the growth of business.
Okay, volume growth rather than price growth.
Yes.
Got it. And finally on investment book, investment income 26,000 crores, 2,600 crores. Can you break it down into interest income or dividend income and capital gain?
This I would pass on to my colleague. He'll address this issue.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Saket, we do have the breakup. Madhulika ma'am, would you come in, please?
Hello.
Okay, I think. Great.
Yeah, ma'am, if you can give investment income breakup into interest income, dividend income, and capital gains, it will be great, ma'am.
Saket, I don't have that figure readily available. Suchita, would you be having those figures with you by any chance?
You said no. This is the problem. Hello.
Yeah, ma'am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, ma'am.
Hello? Sir, can you hear me?
We can hear you, ma'am. Yes.
I'm Jayashree speaking, sir. Can you hear me?
Great, ma'am. So, Saket, we have Jayashree Ranade, ma'am. She is our Chief Investment Officer. She will be able to respond to your breakup question.
Right.
Yeah, ma'am. Just to repeat, ma'am, I was asking question of 2,600 income breakup into interest, dividend, and capital gains.
Correct. Out of this 2,600 crores income, Indian income is 2,550 nearly. Interest is around 907 crores. Profit is 1,515 crores. And dividend is 126 crores only for these 3 months. If you take it cumulatively, our total investment income for up to the period is 6,386 crores, of which 2,588 crores is from interest, 577 from dividend, and profit on sale of investments is 3,220. Does that answer the question, sir?
3,220. Okay. Just repeating myself, 2,600 crores, and you said 907 crores is interest income in the current quarter. 115 crores is capital gain, and 126 crores is in dividend income, right?
126, yeah, around 127 crores. Right.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's it from my side.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bunty Chawla from IDBI Capital. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. On the combined ratio, if we observe, the marine HUL is the portfolio where we have a slightly higher combined ratio other than the average, which is 218.7, and specifically domestic, if you see, it's more than that. So any specific reason or one-off has happened in this segment? And if you can highlight also, and is it the part of the product, always the combined ratio remains high? If that is the reason, then also we are growing in the marine HUL premium, which has grown by 23% in 9-month FY21.
So, Tripathi Saab, can I?
Yes, sure. The marine hull combined ratio, which is showing around 218.70, is a one-off effect of the accounting entries that has been made for this particular line of business. Normally, it should be much below that. And because of this accounting treatment that has been done for reversing of some of the earlier premium. This is showing a technically higher combined ratio of 218. But otherwise, if you see the gross premium of around 856 and earned premium of 518, and on that earned premium, the incurred claims is coming to something 1040 crores. Okay, that is why based on that only this combined ratio is coming to around 218, and this will so much improved performance with the technical corrections being done in the next quarter.
So what will be the normal scenario combined ratio?
Normal scenario combined ratio will be anywhere in between 110 to 120.
Okay, 110 to 120.
Yeah.
Okay. Secondly, on the provisions we have done during this quarter on the doubtful debts is 85 crores roughly. But if we remember correctly, already we have provided for DHFL, ILFS, other different which were stressed assets for the banking industry. We have already been provided. So extra provisioning during this quarter, any specific if you can share, and any more provisions to be done during Q4 FY21?
Our gross provisions have gone up from the second quarter of 1,619 to 1,691 crores. 74 crores of excess provision additional provision has been done this quarter, which is purely arising out of the fact that we had promised the CAG that we will be providing for the Reliance Capital balance amount 25% each quarter till March. So of the 201 crores of Reliance Capital that remain to be provided for, 67 crores is taken in this quarter also, and 67 crores will be taken in the next quarter. In addition to that, we had a default in Simplex Infra, the amount principal being 15 crores. We have gone ahead and provided 50% of that is 7.5 crores. So the 67 crores plus 7.5 crores is 74.5 crores is the additional provision this quarter. We don't foresee any further provisions in the fixed income portfolio in the near future.
Okay, so as you said, 67 and 7 crores we have done for Simplex Infra. So Q4 will be similar 74 crores, which will complete the total provisioning on these.
Yes. As of now, whatever defaults we have already provided for DHFL, ILFS, and other things, the Reliance Capital secured debenture provisions we are doing as per the RBI guidelines, and it will be again 67.5 crores and 7.5 crores for the fourth quarter for the fixed income portfolio, which has been assessed till now.
Okay. So we can say there is no impact of the Supreme Court on gross NPA per se. It's a pure fixed income portfolio which is doing well. So no need to have any NPA on that part and no provisioning as well, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, if you look into our overall books also, our fixed income portfolio is comprising of 92.5% investments in AAA rated bonds and government securities. The regulatory requirement is around 65%. We maintain very high percentage in government securities and AAA rated bonds, that too from the quality companies only. And our overall investment in sovereign bond has also gone up significantly higher. So we don't foresee any corporate defaults in our books going ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Prayesh Jain from Yes Securities. Please go ahead.
Congratulations, sir, on a great set of numbers. So firstly, could you give me some granularity on the aspects of the businesses that you are rejecting, in the sense that the way you mentioned about Tamil Nadu, that you have not written in this season. So some more color on as to which are the businesses that you are not writing anymore, which you would have written last year.
Are you referring to agri?
Yeah, agri and fire both possibly.
Agri.
So basically, my question is to understand which are the loss-making businesses, particularly in crop and fire segments, which were loss-making and you are not looking to underwrite them anymore in this year or going forward.
Okay, with the permission of Chairman, I will speak on agri.
Please, sir. Yes.
Agri, if you see, we have completely weeded out the PSU book in our portfolio. from the beginning of April 2020, when the renewals came, we were very firm on not writing the PSU agri book, and our book comprises purely from the private sector agri book that they are writing. The reasons for not writing Tamil Nadu was Tamil Nadu government has decided to venture into a slightly different subset of the PMFBY, where the state government is a co-insurance up to the extent of 80%, and rest 20% will be taken up by the various companies. We were of the opinion that this is an arrangement which we would not like to see in our treaty. We have always followed the principle that we will price the risk and will pay the claim fully, and we will take the premium fully also. If the state government is able to write 80% in a business, they are well capable of writing 100% also. And if there is lesser claim on that particular season for that state, I mean below 80% or 70%, you have to refund the premium also to the state government. So that does not make sense from a risk perspective. That is why we have not written. And in historically also, Tamil Nadu in the Rabi season always has this retreating monsoon affecting the coast and affecting the paddy crop significantly, which has again happened this year also through unseasonal rain. And the state will report in the Rabi season paddy, they will report higher claims. So we are not into that. Yes, tell me.
So what would be the quantum of the business that you would not have written in this year and would have written last year?
We have literally reduced our business book by 47%. Last year we had written close to 14,800 crores. This year we will be ending something like 8,500 crores.
Okay, all right. Okay, and similarly on fire?
So
I'll request Deepak sir.
Please, sir, please. Yeah. As far as fire is concerned, the foreign renewals are just over in January. What we have done is we have done away with most of the worldwide retro programs that we used to write. These are programs that were belonging to various reinsurance companies that we used to participate on. And it had issues with exposure control because we used to write direct also and through these worldwide retros also. So the same loss could hit us in various ways. So apart from keeping 4 worldwide retros, we have come off all the worldwide retros that we wrote earlier.
Okay. And in the domestic market?
Domestic, it's still to start. I think it's starting April. So it is being analyzed, researched, prices being looked at very closely as to what we can provide in light of the competition that is around us. So we are still working through it.
Okay. So what would be the quantum of the business that you would have foregone in the international business on the fire side?
I guess on this worldwide retros, we should have lost around 700 crores in Indian rupees.
For the 9 months?
Yeah.
Okay. And so for more from a holistic purpose, what is the combined ratio target that you would have in mind for this year and next year?
I think as far as combined ratios are concerned, one would love to have it sub 100, but we don't see that happening for the year. At least for the year, we are looking at somewhere around, 106, 107%.
Okay. And from a medium-term perspective, do you see it coming down to 100%, say, in the next couple of years?
Definitely, yes.
Okay. All right. That's it from us.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vinod Rajamani from HSBC. Please go ahead.
Hello. Thanks for taking my question. So you alluded to the fact that that rating downgrade impacted you, the AM Best, the rating downgrade. Have they given any kind of targets in the sense that for you to get an improvement in rating, do you have to meet certain targets? Have they said that? That is question number one. And question number two is, in terms of some insurers setting up offices in, say, these, like GIFT City and IFSC, SC, and trying to sort of target some international business from that, and trying to sort of reduce the tax outgo by setting up there. Is that likely to impact somebody like GIC, who's a reinsurer? And will you be also looking to set up in GIFT City or something like that? These are the two questions I had.
So you see the way it functions, AM Best basically being a rating agency is largely concerned with the fact that you should be able to meet your policyholders' liabilities. Now that is where it all came in from. What, if you go to the genesis of this entire thing, what actually triggered it was that on 31st of March, obviously the Indian markets were down, and since we hold a substantial equity portfolio, obviously that also came down. Now for us in India, because our financial year runs from the 1st of April to the 31st of March, it somehow coincided with the market coming down as well. It was not only the Indian bourses that came down. I mean, you are more well versed than I am in the international stock markets. The entire international stock market was down. India was not the only one. I mean, when the Prime Minister announced the closing down 22nd, 23rd March, things almost came to a shutdown mode. And 31st March was possibly one of the lowest days of the stock market. Since we closed our book on the 31st of March, we had to take that date as our equity date as well. And that is what the whole problem was triggered. Now, AM Best knows that GIC has a very strong balance sheet. And if you see 31st March to where we are today, the markets are up, everything is hunky-dory. So obviously there are a lot of long-term measures that we have said, including the fact that we are now having a bottom-line approach, which will go down very well with the AM Best, because then your operations become self-sustaining. And this is an ongoing process. How you better tomorrow so that it's better than where we are today. And that process is on in GIC very firmly, and we are all of the mind that we are on the right track. So I hope that answers your AM Best question to what you're looking for. Coming to the GIFT City bit, GIFT City is something that we also have a first mover advantage. The moment GIFT City was announced and offices were set up, we have also set up our branch there, and that branch is functional. And in fact, additionally, even though the government of India in its regulations had allowed us to do only reinsurance business, we have been allowed by the regulator very kindly as a special case, because GIC is treated very differently and specially. From GIFT City, we are allowed to do direct business as well. So we are targeting GIFT City in a big way, and going forward, we have a lot of plans for GIFT City, which we intend to utilize, and because that is something that we see a lot of future in. Does that help?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Manoj Shah from Laxcurve Investments. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to know, as you said that the combined ratio would come down to 106, and you expect on a longer term to come down to below 100. That's the target you're looking at. There are two components of that. One is the incurred claim ratio, which is in this quarter was close to 90%, and net commission expense was around 18%. So are you looking that the incurred claim ratio will further come down, or we can see there's some reduction in the net commission percentage as well?
Now, good evening, Manoj. As we have always maintained that now we are operating on a bottom line approach, and the bottom line clearly means that you have to start making profit in the operations that you are in, which is what the target is. And the target, therefore, to achieve that is to get a combined below 100. Currently, we are very solidly working with all the measures that we are setting to, better our underwriting performance, to get our combined in the near future to below 100. Now, there are three components that go into a combined. Of course, it is your income versus your outgo, and your outgo is your claims, your commissions, and your expenses of management. Your expenses of management are already the lowest in the world. Nobody operates at an expense of management that is below 1%, which is GIC's USP, I would say. Coming to the commissions. Now, commissions is essentially what you pay for the business, and that is fairly pretty much a constant. That doesn't change much. Where actually you can make a difference is by getting your incurred claims ratios down. And that obviously is a direct fallout of the type of business you write. The moment you start writing a business with an eye on the bottom line, your incurred ratio starts coming down. Exactly what we are targeting. Because we want to get the incurred down, and that is how the combined is going to come down.
Okay. This quarter we have like 89.6 for these 3 months. So can we expect it to further down because because of your past claim experience, you have increased the rate over last 2 years, and they're trickling as the renewals are coming in, and we may see some impact in April as well. So we may expect for next 2-3 quarters that the higher rates will kick in and which will take care of some of your incurred claim also.
Yes, also, you see, higher rate is a short-term gain. But by writing prudently, you are into the long-term business. When you set in motion a thought process where you start writing to make a profit in the business, that is where your incurred claim starts coming down, because you will just be very picky and choosy in your business. In fact, reinsurers take a lot of pride that my rejection rate of business coming in is 70%, 80%. That is where the real worth of a reinsurer comes in, when you can sift the grain from the chaff and get on to business that is good for us and long-term goal for us in GIC.
Yeah, because I was hearing some because that for the life insurance business also you have put a mandatory that the medical underwriting has to be compulsory, and you've increased the rates kind of at so.
Yes, I mean, so all these things, factors go hand in hand. You cannot, put them in silos, but then they all contribute towards making your bottom line healthy. And the basic thing is that you should be able to find your way from the bad ones, and you have to find your way to the good ones, the good eggs in the basket.
So, is my assumption right that over next 2-3 quarters we may see further improvement in company's financials, that the underwriting losses will come down and we may see turning to profitable?
Most certainly. We are working towards exactly that goal.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was the last question in queue. I would now like to hand the conference back to the management team for closing comments.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'll request Mr. Tripathi to give some closing remarks, please.
Yes. We thank all the participants for sparing their valuable time to engage with the management of GIC and understand the Q3 results. We continue to strive for improved results and provide you with reasonable guidance based on our endeavor. We also assure you of our availability in case you wish to seek further clarification on any of the business matters that you require from GIC. On behalf of the management, I express my sincere gratitude again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On behalf of General Insurance Corporation of India, that concludes the conference. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. You may now disconnect your lines.